The Innovators Network.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Well, welcome back to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. We are back here in the studio in Colorado. This week, we're going to take maybe a step back in history. One of the conversation points that comes up a lot when I do Q&A at public speaking events, when I'm teaching workshops, etc., is about my own history. And how did I get to where I am today in my career? What experiences did I have? What organizations did I work with? What did I learn from those different organizations? So that's what we're going to do today. We can't cover my entire career. Sorry, it takes a little bit longer than the 42 minutes of content that goes into the broadcast or the podcast. So we're going to go way back to the early start of my career, right from the very beginning. But when I look across my career, one of the things I realized was it was all about building self confidence. And I am so thankful for those early experiences with those early organizations, early leaders that really modeled for me what it meant, one, to be a leader, but two, how to instill into a young kid, me, who thought he knew everything, who was coming in guns blaring, and not to squash me or throw cold water on me, but to actually encourage me, encourage what it was that drove me, that I was passionate about, that I was truly, focused on, from the standpoint of uh, those things that just caused my excitement to happen. And so, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about how to build your innovation self confidence. So, in my case, I'm going to share with you how I built my innovation self confidence over some of my early jobs and my early careers. And what did I learn? And what were these organizations like? And what were the experiences that they gave me? But before we dive into that, we need to kind of take a step back and think about what are those skills about self confidence? What are those elements that build up your self confidence? Whether you're in the beginning of your career, the middle of your career, or you're looking at the sunset of your career, what are those elements that build up self confidence? Well, they break down into a couple of different areas. One is around team spirit. Team. You have to know how to build a team, and the teams are really the crux of your self confidence. Your self confidence isn't about you got to show up somebody else, or you've got to be the smartest person in the room. Not the case at all. It's about really being a part of a team, knowing how to build a team, and eventually knowing how to lead a team. And you realize that, especially in the innovation game, there's no such thing as the lone innovator. It is all about the team. And yeah, okay, early in my career, I was just as interested in seeing my name in the press. I have file folders early in my career where I collected every clip, every time I was mentioned, my name came up someplace. You know, I fed off of that. I learned as I went through my career, not that important. It isn't about you. It is about the team. So team. Self-confidence. Self-confidence is not just self-confidence from the standpoint of what I was typically thinking about, but self-confidence is in the fact of confidence that you can do things. Confidence that you can achieve, confidence that you've got something to build upon that you have learned. Third in these soft skills is communication. You have to know how to communicate and how to communicate effectively. Effectively. Now, my background is I was a software engineer. I started off my career specifically in the tech area, software engineering, specifically graphics, the representation of information, the creation of tools that used graphics to convey ideas and concepts, anything that was graphically oriented. How did I end up there? I originally wanted to be an architect. I started off wanting to become an architect early in my career. I was fortunate to have been selected by the National Science Foundation to be part of what was called the Saturday programs. Saturday programs was a program at the University of Illinois funded by NSF, whereby high school seniors who, you know, had certain aptitudes and certain skills. Thank goodness it was not on based on grades because my high school grades weren't all that great. It got me through. I was kind of a solid B student, but I wasn't the academic, nobody was ever going to confuse me with being the valedictorian in my high school. But I got selected for this program. I was really big into architecture, mechanical engineering, anything drafting and drawing. You would find me at my drafting tables for hours, inking and lettering and doing designs, etc. And that's what got me into this program. As a result of that, um, I did my senior in high school and my freshman year in college kind of at the same time, and I got to get kind of eased into college and really learn it. The process of that though was around communication skills because I had to be interviewed to be accepted to this program. I had to present my work with strangers, not your friends in high school, but total strangers, people that you had never had experience with. And so for me, that was absolutely a great on ramp experience. One of the other soft skills you have to have is empathy. You have to be able to empathize with the customer that you're trying to solve the problem with, or the ultimate consumer who's going to buy your idea, or your coworkers. Just showing empathy to just the day-to-day life struggles that your coworkers have. The other is assertiveness. You have to be a little bit assertive. You have to be a little bit. You can't be a wallflower. You've got to be willing to stick up for yourself. You got to be, more importantly, being willing to stick up for your ideas, and not just by the volume of your voice or the fact that you can yell, but you have to be able to be assertive. You have to be able to convince. You have to be able to persuade. You have to be able to get people to come onto your side of thinking, to endorse your ideas. In some cases, to do that, you have to be willing to change your ideas, to merge your ideas with something else that somebody else has thrown out there. And so, this assertiveness, it's a fine edge. If you push too hard, you get tagged as being arrogant. You push back too far, oh, you're a wallflower, you're an introvert, you're a doer, not a thinker. You got to find that right edge on that assertiveness. And then also on the soft skills is you have to define your personality. Now, some people would believe that personality is something that you're born with. I don't believe that. I think your experiences early in your career define your work personality. Now, some cases, like for me, I will be the first to admit, and anybody who knew me early in my career will tag me as a workaholic. That was my personality type. I was compulsive. I was addictive to the adrenaline of work. And it took me a long time to change that personality. And it wasn't a good thing to have in my career. Now, it allowed me to put a lot of energy in, allowed me to, work all day and then stay up all night learning new skills in order to do better at the job the next day, right? All good things. But my personal life, my family life suffered as a result of that workaholic. But I chose that personality. And you can choose the personality traits that you want to have. And you need to think about those personality traits and you need to select the ones that are the ones that you want to be you, that want to define you in your work environment. If you want to be a workaholic and be a type A and, et cetera, knock yourself out, there's always unintended consequences. If you look at what personalities you want to have for innovation, it may be a different set of skills and personalities that you need to have innovation success. So don't, you know, s- you- now may not be a bad time to step back and think about what is your personality and what your personality should be. So don't go anywhere. When you come right back, we'll kick off looking back through my career and how it impacted my innovation. Welcome back to Co-Innovations as we pick up this conversation talking about how to build your innovation self-confidence and how self-confidence fits into all of the soft skills you need to have in order to be a leading innovator. If you want to be an innovation leader, if you want to come up with great products and services, you need to have that self-confidence. But self-confidence by itself doesn't is not the only thing you need. It fits into a whole set of soft skills. And we talked about those soft skills in the last segment. We talked about team spirit. Yes, you need to have self confidence, but self confidence builds off of all of the other areas of communications and empathy and assertiveness and personality. And I would actually argue that these other elements of the soft skills actually become part of your self confidence. You can't have self confidence without assertiveness. You can't have self confidence without teamwork, um, team skills. You're not going to become self confident if you don't have communication skills. So I would argue that these all build up together. So, as I said at the beginning of the show today, what I wanted to do was walk you through my own experience. We're going to go in the time machine way back to 1980 in Evansville, Indiana. So, my wife and I, you've probably you've been listening to the show for any amount of time, you've heard the story. My wife and I met when we were 14. Yes, 14 years old. We met via Boy Scouts. We are a scouting marriage. We started dating at 17. We got married at 20, our sophomore year in college. The summer after our wedding, my wife was able to help me secure a summer internship at a company called Anchor Industries. Anchor Industries, if you're not familiar with it, is the one of the largest producers of canvas products, backpacks, big, huge circus tents. You've seen these white vinyl tents that drape and look beautiful, kind of a natural shape and form. Um, Odds are those are Anchor tents. Anchor is based in Evansville, Indiana. It was founded in 1892. My wife knew the family. My wife was doing her undergrad at the University of Evansville. I was at the University of Illinois in Chicago. We were married, yet lived 5.5 hours apart. Don't ask. So this was the summer internship. She knew the family that owned Anchor Industries and mentioned that I was looking for a summer internship and that I was interested in architecture and design and drafting, etc. And they hired me in. And my initial job at Anchor for that first summer was to go through all of the designs of all the products that Anchor manufactures and reverse engineer blueprints. So they would have a blueprint version. Many of their products they'd been making for 50 years, but didn't have any form of engineering drawings. They literally had like third generation craftsmen working in the factory, building tents, doing handwork for the big Barnum and Bailey huge circus tents as one of their products, as an example. So I was coming in and great. I get to sit at a drafting table all summer and I get paid for it. Can you imagine that? But I quickly just fell in love with Anchor and its organization and its culture. John Dawes was the CEO at the time. His grandfather started the business 1892 on the Ohio River. They used to make canvas coverings for the river boats going up and down the Ohio River. So team, it was all started by it was a family-run organization. It didn't have the feel of anything else. It just had this very unique kind of team structure to it. Through the process of my work at Anchor, it was about self-confidence. They literally let me take on anything. I started off interning doing drafting, but I also learned how to do time studies in the sewing industry. When you're making canvas products, everything's based on time pay, meaning you're going to get paid for a certain amount of hours to build 10 of these widgets. Now, if you do those widgets in less time, you actually make money. If it takes you longer, you make less money. So it's how the sewing industry works. I learned how to do time studies, which became crucial to one of my skill sets in understanding the value of time when it comes to innovation and efficiencies. One of the things they built as a product was pool covers. They're the largest manufacturer in the world of vinyl and mesh pool covers. At this point, the way they did it, this is 1980s, they would literally get blueprints sent to them of a pool cover. They would clear out a whole big floor segment of the factory floor, and they would hand draw the pool onto the factory floor. Then they would lay out either 18 or 24-inch edges, which extended beyond the edge of the pool, lay the fabric, cut it, stitch it or weld it, depending on the type of fabric, put your grommets in, put your straps on it, and the pool cover's done. But it was a very slow process. I'm a computer guy who likes graphics. Said I think I could do something better. So I actually went back after my summer internship, and for one of my advanced project classes, I designed an automatic pool cover layout program. And I was basically stealing University of Illinois computing time to calculate these pool covers. So I took a bunch of blueprints with me, I laid them out, sent them back to Anchor to have them validate it. They validated it. And then all of a sudden, I started getting boxes and boxes of blueprints because I could lay these out at 10 times faster. And they could lay them out, cut them, stitch them, and spit them out. Had a huge impact on Anchor's ability to do more pool covers, and it was an interesting project. Later, however, it actually turned into when I became an employee of Anchor. The following fall season, my wife suffered a severe injury, hurting her back. She was not able to complete school at the time. She had to take some time off. I left school. Anchor hired me full time, and I spent 1 year working at Anchor Industries, building them a pool cover layout program on an Apple II Plus. Remember, this is 1981-ish, 82-ish now, and that product had a huge impact because it allowed Anchor to actually even grow faster because it could produce literally limited by the number of Apple IIs you had available to do pool covers. And that tied out to me having a long-term relationship with Anchor. Years later, they contacted me about updating the pool cover program, and they today still are one of the largest producers of pool covers. But that confidence, the fact that they just let me go do it, and try it out, experiment with it, and let's see what this young kid can come up with to help get us more efficient and those kinds of things. So it was just that endorsement of trust, and that's what I valued from Anchor Industries. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more stories. Welcome back to Killer Innovations. We are talking today about how to build innovation self-confidence. And I would argue that the way you build innovation self confidence is through your work or career experience. I've already talked about literally my first, what I would call real industry job. It started off as an internship. And then, fortunately for me, my wife, who had suffered a back injury as a result of a job she had while she was a nursing student at the University of Evansville, Anchor Industries hired me on full time and offered us benefits as as full time employees, which is just unheard of. I mean, John Dawes and in the Dawes family basically was guardian angels for my wife and I in those early days of our career. So after Anchor, there was other jobs that came up, but again, it's all about filling in the soft skills, so the team spirit, having had that experience to build up your self confidence. But self confidence is dependent on things like team spirit, communications, empathy, assertiveness, your personality, knowing what personality styles, how you want to be portrayed, how do you want to portray yourself, what drives you internally defines your personality. So after Anchor Industries, the next stop on my career was with Deltec Microsystems. So yes, this, if you're watching the video, this is an actual image of my business card at Deltec Microsystems. Now, I'm going to guess that 99.9% of you have never heard of Deltec Microsystems. Deltec Microsystems was a subsidiary of Deltec. Deltec was also a subsidiary of Princess Hall Publishing. Deltec was the largest producer of training materials around technology. So if you had mainframes, mini computers, in the case of Deltec Microsystems, we focused on the early stages of PCs. So this would have been 1983, yeah, 1983, 1984. And our mission was to capitalize on this new thing called a PC and create training materials that new users could take to learn how to take advantage of a PC. Now, how did I end up with the job at Deltec? Well, I ended up at the job at Deltec because of my work at Anchor. I had done the pool cover layout program, had done that, was at Anchor for a year, almost debated with not going back to school, but to actually stay in Evansville, Indiana, and work my entire career at Anchor. There'd been people at Anchor, actually a large crew of people at Anchor that had been there 35, 40, 45 years, second, third generation. Anchor employees, very solid, very well established um, type of environment. But I decided that after the year, um, Anchor was pretty well up and running on the pool cover. I had written some other software programs for them that they had adopted, and actually helped one of the people that I worked with to get some training, and eventually she came to become the CIO. Many years later, I went back to visit Deltec 20 years after I had left, and she was there as their chief information officer, running all of the IT systems at Deltec. Or I mean, at Anchor. At Deltec, it was about training people how to take advantage of technologies to benefit your business. So, with regards to some of the soft skills I learned at Deltec, teamwork. It was a brand new organization, so this team was being built up, and I was hired on as a manager. Think about that. I came from Anchor Industries to Deltec to manage. And Deltec had seen or heard about the pool cover program and heard great things about what I had done at Anchor. That's why they hired me. PCs, a lot of experience on that. Um, Willing to try and experiment, and they basically hired me to unleash me to do what I do. Um, so it was my first time where I had to hire people. I'd never hired anybody. I never had to fire anybody. So this was my very first. How do you build a team, and how do you support a team, and how do you recognize when you made a bad call on a hire and how do you deal with it, and how important it is to get the right people. On communications, Deltec was the organization that kind of pushed me out in front, giving talks, giving speeches. I was the PC guy inside of Deltec. Deltec was about 300 employees in total at the time. Bob King was the CEO. Deltec actually you could argue, was a little bit like a spinoff from IBM when IBM got into antitrust and it had to split itself up between IBM hardware, IBM software, and IBM training. Deltec was the old IBM training group. Um, and so I'm in this new little subsidiary called Deltec Microsystems, and I'm the PC guy. I'm the guy that knows all about PCs, and I'm the guy defining what the training needed to be. So I had to be out in front talking, get very good at communicating. My first, some big flubs in the press all occurred when I was at Deltec. Also, you learn on some failures. We had some failures. We were releasing a product, and all of our products came out floppy disks, 5.25 inch floppy disks, and we had a bunch of disks duplicated for a new release, and then it was found that one of the disks had a flaw in it. So I had to fix the flaw, and then literally sat in front of a PC for, I don't know, it was like 36 hours straight, hand duplicating, sticking a floppy into the drive, letting it write over it, pulling it out, sticking the next one in, and then validating everyone to make sure that every package that went out with the product would work and was perfect. And that was my learning. That says if you have a failure, that's fine. You've got to fix it. You own it. You fix it. And let me tell you, 36 hours. Make sure you don't make that mistake twice. Um, Assertiveness. I had to learn how to be more assertive. I wasn't really that much of an assertive type of personality at this point in my career. This is only like my second real job, but I had to learn how to push. I learned had to express my opinion and express my ideas, and then also my personalities. I learned to be very self-aware of what I was good at and what I wasn't so good at. Deltec is the company where Bob Davis, my first mentor, recruited me to. He was my boss at Deltec Microsystems. And Bob's leadership and his mentorship prepared me to be able to be a manager, to hire, to take risks. And when you stumble, get yourself up, fix the problem, move on. And also to be self-aware. The performance review process at Deltec was pretty darn good. And you knew exactly where you stood, you know where your strengths were, you know what your weaknesses were. Now, some of those weaknesses you may say, that's not me. I'm not going to go into that part of my career. Or you're going to say, that's a weakness and I need to fix it because that's going to hold me back. And Bob rotated me. He, albeit they hired me in to run all of software development for the subsidiary for products. I had all of product software development reporting to me, but he also said you can be a great software engineer or you can be a great leader. To be a great leader, you need to be a T-shaped individual. I-shaped, meaning I was very deep in software and graphics, animation, and all those things. T is I had to have the experience of running the entire business. So I spent time in sales and in marketing and in finance and in IT and advertising and every leadership role in Deltec Microsystems. I at one time or another sat in that seat to learn it, to experience it, to truly understand what it took and understand what that group depended on my group to be able to do for them to be successful. Again, that team role and understanding that you are a cog in the wheel. You provide one piece of it, but without the rest of the team, you have no opportunity for success. And so, Deltec Microsystems, Bob Davis, Roxy Westfall, Bob King, Peter Dignan, all the leaders within Deltek Microsystems had a huge impact on my career, and I will be forever thankful to them. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to summarize it all up. Well, welcome back to Killer Innovations. Today we're talking about how to build your innovation self-confidence. And in my case, my building of my innovation self-confidence was based on my early career experience. I can trace it all the way back to that very first job at Anchor Industries and my second job at Deltek. Those two companies really set me down the path that ultimately became my career that it is today. And each one of them contributed a different part of all of the soft skills you need to have to be an innovation leader. Innovation self confidence is one um, soft skill you need to have. And that soft skill is all about just having that confidence. You've done it, you know how to do it, or maybe you don't know how to do it, but you know how to learn to do it. And so, what I wanted to do here was to share with you how each of those couple early companies fit into building out my soft skills. And so, when you look at the soft skills map, whether it be team spirit, self confidence, communications, empathy, assertiveness, personality, each of my early jobs filled in some portion of these soft skills. So if you look at team spirit, both Anchor and Deltek had huge impact on my understanding of teamwork, everybody contributing their expertise, and that everybody is not an expert in everything. So contribute your expertise, but also don't be a wallflower. Provide feedback to other people's. Contribute to, build upon, or as we just said in one of the past shows about plussing it. How do you help somebody that's got a really good base idea? Is there a way that you can make their idea even better? So both Anchor and Deltek had a huge impact in educating me about that team spirit. Anchor and Deltek both hugely impacted my self confidence. Why? Because they gave me the freedom to go off and try things and not to worry about failure, not worry about stumbling. And again, I would argue that self confidence is really made up of all of these soft skills. You need all of these soft skills, whether it be teamwork, communications, empathy, assertiveness, personality. You need it all to be self confident. But in particularly in the self confidence, both Anchor and Deltek allowed me to go off and do things that, I mean, at Anchor, I'm still amazed that John Dawes and Eric Salter would allow this 20-year-old kid to go off and do what they let me go do as an intern and then as a new employee. Deltek, what Bob Davis allowed me to go do, absolutely unbelievable for a kid as young as I was at 20, 21 years old. Communication skills. Deltek really armed me to build up my communication skills and not to talk technical, but to talk and adapt my language to the audience. It was my audience technical, talk technical. If my audience is leaders, talk with a leadership type of style. If you're talking to customers, talk in their style. Adapt the communications to your audience. In the case of empathy, understanding and empathizing with customers, but also the key skill I learned from Anchor was empathizing with employees. Anchor was a family run organization. In the case of my wife and I, we were newly married. We were 20 years old. We actually lived in a condemned building in Evansville, Indiana, and our monthly rent was $50 a month when we first started out. That's how we started our life, in a condemned building at $50 a month. And John Dawes and his family came alongside my wife and I and helped us. They were our guardian angels in our early career and in our early life as a couple. And I just can't say enough for Anchor Industries and the Dawes family. Assertiveness. You have to learn to be assertive. You got to push your ideas. You got to sell your ideas. Deltec taught me that. I was already put right out of the gate, day one. My second job, hire, put right into as a manager. I'm like amazed that they would do that for someone such as me. And then personality. And you get to pick your personality. Now at Anchor, I was so dedicated to Anchor. I worked crazy hours, even though at Anchor, it's like working in a factory. We punched clocks. You had to put your time card in, punch your time card. But I worked hours into the evening writing programs, testing programs, designing things. They let me design. I'm an Eagle Scout. I was big into outdoors, so I designed a tent, and Anchor let me build the tent using their resources as a test and trial. I was into rock climbing. I was a rock climbing instructor, so I built some early rock climbing gear, things that today, if you're into rock climbing, you could go buy. I was building those at Anchor back in those days, and they let me use all the equipment, supplies, anything I wanted, and to go off and try it. Same thing at Deltec. They pretty much gave me free reign to go do whatever I thought was needed to make Deltec Microsystems successful. And I would hope that my staff and my leadership style today, in my role today as a CEO, mirrors what Bob Davis showed at Deltec and what John Dawes, Eric Salter, and the leadership team at Anchor showed me back in when I was there in the 1980-81 timeframe, which was trust, trust your people. Yes, they may mess up and stub their toe and cause a problem or whatever, but trust them. So trust them. So with that, one more quick plug. If you want to learn more about how to innovate within your organization, check out the Disruptive Ideation Workshop at disruptiveideation.com. You can also reach out to me. Let me know what you thought of today's show. This is only a couple of my stopping points in my career. I've been thinking about doing case studies of some of the products and innovations I've developed, pointing out what worked and didn't work and what I learned through that process. So let me know. Phil@killinnovations.com. And again, what if I had one favor to ask of you, and that is tell others about the show. Help us expand the subscriber base. Let other people know about Killer Innovations. And with that, we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
This show is distributed by the Innovators Network. For more information and other great shows and content, visit theinnovators.network.